to the Clock End Talk, an Arsenal podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. You'll follow us at clockend_talk on Twitter. We're also on Facebook. You can download the podcast on any good podcast app. We're also available on YouTube. Okay, each and every week I'm joined by a couple of lads, Tony and Schwinn. So, Tony, how are you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. Had a good day out at Arsenal yesterday. I don't know, for people that don't follow us on Twitter, I actually sat in the Clock End yesterday, which is the first time in about 10 years. So this week we genuinely are Clock End Talk, which is unusual. But East Stand Talk didn't have a ring to it. So
I seen you tweet that out. What was the story behind that?
So one of the companies I work with had some seats in a box. So I took a couple of friends that I also work with, and sat in a box in the Clock End.
Okay, good sitting back there.
I mean, I was in club level for anyone knows, so it's kind of like a corporate level. It's like the middle ring at the Emirates when you see it. It's the one that's always empty after half time because you get free beers at half time. The view is very good, but I prefer sitting on the side because you can see the whole pitch better, and like you can't tell how far out things are when you're like lengthways. Like so, when we're down the other end of the pitch, you don't know if someone's 5 yards out or sort of 15. Like if I was in my seat, I would have known straight away Aubameyang was offside for the goal. I guess that's a spoiler if someone hasn't seen it. And but at that seat, I genuinely didn't have a clue until they showed it on the screen. When I saw the Everton players appealing for offside, I thought they were appealing for Ozil being offside at the start of the move. So I mean, yeah, the seat was lovely, nice day, blah blah blah. But give me my own seat any day of the week.
Fair enough. And Schwinn, how are you, buddy?
Doing very well. 3 points yesterday. Not the prettiest of games, but you know what? We got a clean sheet. And some might even say we earned the clean sheet. So, happy days.
Happy days, mate. And 3 points. We love that. Okay, look, we'll get into it. Tony, lineup came out. It was pretty much what I expected. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it literally exactly what I expected. I knew Torreira would come in after he only played 60 the other day. So, literally, I couldn't. That's exactly what I would have went for. I think all three of us probably would have gone for the same.
Did you tweet out
him to the same?
Yeah. Did you tweet out the? Was it you that did the poll, Czech or Leno?
No.
Okay.
Because I mean, for me, that's a stupid question. Because even before yesterday, it don't matter who we prefer. I think everyone in their right mind knew. I know Leno won the poll, but everyone knew it was going to be Czech. So I mean, I just don't waste my time with pointless stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I saw in the poll and I thought, oh, that's a bit weird. We know it was Czech, but I get where people are coming from though, because they wanted Leno, and I think it got about 700 odd hits on that poll too. So, Schwinn, you expected that, mate?
I did. As we discussed after the midweek game, we expected a bit of the rotation to come in from that day. And as I said after the Newcastle game, I thought Torreira was going to start. He was finally going to get the nod because of how he connected with his teammates and how he looked to improve them. So as expected, I did think that Mkhitaryan would be available, but apparently he picked up a knock and was not available as a part of the 18. So hopefully he'll be back soon, and we can bring him in when required.
And I forgot to mention before I started here, if you can hear a little bit of background noise from me, it's absolutely pissing down rain here at the moment. So I apologise for that if you can hear a bit of background noise. Tony, it was the first half that went in 0-0, obviously. Your thoughts on the first half? Not much happened.
Yeah, it was a weird one. It was a very even game, I guess. They probably had the better of the chances, almost certainly. A lot of the game was played in the midfield. They kept possession a lot of the time without doing anything, and we didn't bother to close them, which again takes away this notion that we're a pressing team. Like, we just didn't bother. We just let them have the ball, which is not a negative. We made a couple of chances that we should have done better. Pickford made a very good save from Nacho. There was one where Ozil broke from deep and he tried to square it to Ramsey, and I think it was Keane, but it was one of their players just got a touch on it and took it away from Ramsey. But then Calvert-Lewin should have scored. Walcott could have scored, and Richarlison had a decent chance. So, I mean, yeah, you'd probably say it was their half if you had to score it. but it was very tight. But I mean, Czech made or at least two saves that you'd expect to concede from, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Schwinn going into half time, mate. You're thinking 0-0. What's going on? And you're starting to get a bit worried. Are we going to come out if we score an early goal? With confidence. You're a bit happier. I'm a bit happier, and we all are. But at half time, mate, what was your thoughts?
Yeah, it seems to be the tale that we've seen so far this season, where against Newcastle, against Cardiff as well. I think the first half has been a bit slow, and we've taken some time to hit the ground running and find our feet. At halftime, I think this was the most challenged game for us, perhaps, in some way, where it wasn't as if our football wasn't working, but we were actively being bombarded. And if it weren't for Czech, then I'm sure we would have struggled to get the points on the day. But as soon as we came out, we again found our feet. Were able to retain possession, and till the time Lacazette scored, I think it was pretty much one-way football. So I think it has. I think the halftime team talk is something that is leaving some positive impact. I guess. More important question is, why aren't we able to start games this way? We were a bit nervy in the beginning. Granit Xhaka lost the ball a couple of times in key areas. Mustafi was not quite himself yesterday, or we can say Mustafi of the past that we've seen. Losing Socrates, I think, also was a bit of a psychological blow in that regard, but I think Rob Holding did pretty well. Apart from Czech, I thought Lacazette had a very good half. His interplay was very good. The instance that Tony just mentioned where Mesut Ozil was away was through a Lacazette through pass, which was very, very good. So, Ramsey still is a question mark for me in the position he's being played in, and I'm not sure where we're headed with that. But at halftime, what we'd seen, I thought maybe we can still bring our shit together and maybe get the points.
And you brought up a little, mentioned a couple of loose passes. And Tony, your thoughts on that? Because that was something that really frustrated me. And Granit done it. I think Traore had one or two. We seemed to give away the ball too much.
Yeah, I think they started with. When I looked at their lineup, I thought they were going to press heavily. They started basically their most energetic players. I mean, you wouldn't say Calvert-Lewin's their best striker, but he's definitely their most energetic. They started Walcott and Richarlison either side of him. Tom Davis, who hasn't even been getting in their team, but he's got a very good engine, started and was their captain, which was weird. And then Idrissa Gana Gueye's got a very good engine. Sigurdsson is the only one you could probably say isn't renowned for his running out of them 5 or 6. So their fronts, they were made to hassle us, and they didn't press as hard from Czech. They let Czech pass it out, but then seemed to starve the ball getting into midfield and try and nick it there, and it worked well for a period. I don't know if it was something that we maybe wasn't expecting. Where everyone's been pressing us, we've been working so hard on playing out from the back, but starting from the keeper and playing around teams. They took the playing around them out of it by only sort of starting to try and get the ball once it was at the centre back's feet. Mm-hmm. So it's something different, and it took us some time to adjust. I disagree with Schwinn. I thought Lacazette had quite a poor first half. I thought his first touch was off on a number of times, and that allowed the ball to come back at us. Also, after he, I don't even want to say missed a chance when Ramsey cut it back to him, and he should have hit it. He never hits anything first time, which does my head in. But he took the touch, and it was a poor touch, and he got tackled. And then for about 10 minutes after that, every touch he had was bad. And I don't know if that was playing on his head. And I thought he had a very good second half, but I thought the first half too much bounced off of him and came back. And when a team is pressing you and you're losing stupid balls in the middle like we were, you kind of need the ball to stick up top for a bit just to take pressure and also just to complete some passes. If someone, say Xhaka or Torreira, fizzes it into Lacazette and he holds it for a bit, they feel better about themselves. So I've made whereas even though it's a completed pass, if it does go to him but then he has a bad touch and it bounces back, it's like, oh shit, we're under pressure again straight away. Whereas if they pass it to him and he holds it and then he plays a pass, it's like it relieves the pressure from the whole team. So I don't think he had the best first half. And it was just sloppy all around, but I don't know. In a way, I've kind of got to credit Everton. It was a weird one because I don't know if you guys have seen the same interview, but when Marco Silva was interviewed after the game, he said, I made some changes at half-time and they looked like they were working for a bit, but then they scored. And I was sitting there thinking, why would you change it? We had chances, but you was cutting us apart. You had loads of chances yourself, and we was really struggling to play football. So that was a strange one from him. I couldn't pinpoint what exactly it was he changed, but he made a very big point of saying, "Yeah, I made changes at half time." So
yeah, he didn't. Yeah, I did see that, and I was wondering exactly the same myself, because even the tempo, that they were coming, and it was making us go, past quicker, and we were trying, and that was creating the errors. And whatever they did that probably first 20, 30 minutes, you could arguably say the first half, they probably had us, a bit of pressure on us, especially in the midfields, because we were just giving away loose balls. So Torreira, 15th minute, he gets that yellow card, Schwinn. And if you fast forward this podcast, we did speak about it with Vish, but it was a yellow card for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those where he was a bit late, and it just, to the eye, it seemed a bit harsh in terms of the strength of the challenge. And when you miss the ball completely, then you're just giving the ref a reason to book you, and that's exactly what happened.
And then the second one was Socrates in the 30th minute. That was yellow. Again,
a smart one, to be fair. Just outside the box, I think I want to give him the credit there that he knew where he was and wasn't inside the box at that point. He knew he was going to lose Walcott and was not going to be able to recover. So it just brought him down, and I don't know if that's the one that did some damage on him, but of course he went off after that. So hoping he'll be fine, but we didn't concede afterwards, which is a good thing. But it shows that against some of the pacier players, our center backs are a bit suspect, and we might be able to get away with it in certain cases, but it can really hurt us. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison, and Walcott were running things for a bit, which was not exactly what you want to see, especially in the first minute of the game. I think that's when Calvert-Lewin got away, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Tony, and then we fast forward to the Lacazette goal in the 56th minute, but it was a brilliant goal, and I'll let you explain the goal in a minute. But I just want to talk about the lead up. I don't know if you noticed it at the ground or they held the board up, but the commentators here, and you might have got it too, Schwinn, that Lacazette was just about to be subbed off. And then he scores that wonderful goal.
Yeah, so I mean, Iwobi was on the sideline, completely stripped, ready to come on, but I think it was for Aubameyang. Obviously, he played midweek. He was playing out wide. He wasn't really being too effective. I don't know either way, but the feeling in the ground was that it was going to be for Aubameyang, not Lacazette. I don't know if the commentators confirmed it definitely was Lacazette, but.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they said Lacazette over here was just about to come off, and I think it may have been for.
No, it was definitely Iwobi.
Iwobi was just about to come on, yeah. Which that seemed weird, so maybe the commentator fucked up on that.
Oh, he may be right. As I said, the feeling in the ground was it was Aubameyang. You can just see, I don't want to dig him out, because he didn't have a bad game, to be fair, but you can see he just doesn't want to be on the left. Like, he just purely doesn't want to be there. But then, as I said, I personally, and I know Schwinn disagrees, I thought Lacazette had a bad first half, so I think either of them would have been understandable at that point.
Yeah.
But then, as Iwobi's there, waiting to come on, I want to give credit, and I know people are queuing up to give him credit at the moment, but I want to give Lucas Torreira quite a lot of credit for the goal, for nicking the ball back in front of their player, rather than standing him up and letting him have the ball, but making sure he couldn't go there. He was proactive, nicked the ball in front of him, got it to Ramsey. Quite a cool head from Ramsey. I've seen him shoot from there. I've seen him do or try too much. He played the simple ball that was on, and it's a crazy finish from Lacazette. My biggest grievance with him is that he never shoots first time. But once he's had a touch and he's settled himself, I think his finishing is up there, is second to none. It's just, as I said, I personally feel he needs time to finish. But yeah, once he's taken that touch, I mean, the finish is crazy.
Mm-hmm. No, good goal, and that put all our minds at ease a bit, because we go up the 1-0. So, and then Schwinn, obviously, Aubameyang, he gets on the scoreboard as well, assisted by Ramsey again.
Yeah, but that's one where you can just see that the word assist is, or any stat, is just so skewed, because Yes, it was a pass that Ramsey eventually got into Aubameyang, but Aubameyang was offside, and we really made a meal out of that. We got away with it very, very in just the most precarious manner. When you have two players in the box with one looking to feed either of those two, someone needs to go near post, someone needs to go far post. It's football 101. And both Aubameyang and Ramsey were just not on the same page there. Ramsey should be definitely making a dart towards the front post. And I think Mesut Ozil was quite pissed off because he actually, I think, thought that the goal was given offside. So he actually flung an arm in the air and was almost questioning what Ramsey was doing there. But you know what, we got away with it. And I think that's sort of just sealed the game for us. Everton did try to knock on our goal after that. But to our credit, we just shut things down. And as Tony's complained a lot of times on here, that we don't manage the game well. And I think yesterday was one of those cases where we did, and we just saw the game out.
Yeah, it was. So that was way offside. But yeah.
Well, it's Aubameyang scored 2 goals against Everton since he's been since he's been at Arsenal, and they've both been offside. They just must be sick of him.
Fucking hell, eh? Yeah, not good, eh? But we get away with it, boys. Happy days. Lucky with that.
Well, I mean, for me, we should have had a penalty 2 minutes before. I think it was at the first goal when Aubameyang's headed the ball back, and I know John Joe Kenny was close to him, but I mean, look where his arm was, and the ball was clearly going to an Arsenal player. For me, that's a penalty every day of the week. So we can argue about, look, it was clearly offside. And I'm not even trying to deny that.
Yeah.
But I hate saying decisions will even themselves out, because they don't. But in that instance, I think they have, because for me, if you're not giving that as a penalty, you might as well just say you're allowed to handball it.
Is that? Yeah, you're talking about that handball, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a handball. Should have been a penalty. Yeah, that was. That was a couple of minutes before that goal.
It was either just before the first goal or in between the two.
Yeah.
But I think it was first.
Yeah. No, so a bit of karma, I suppose. Come back.
Well, as I said, they don't even themselves out, but you can't. I don't think you can go too. And I'd say the same if it was against us. I don't think you could go too strongly on the injustice. And to be fair to Everton, they haven't really. But I don't think you can go too strongly on the injustice when you've got away with something like that literally seconds before.
Boys, so I'm just going to touch quickly your thoughts on the subs that come on. Holding, Iwobi and Welbeck. He came on in the 80th minute for Ramsey, but I'm going to get bogged down Ramsey a little bit because we've got some questions on that, so we'll touch on that one soon. But on the subs, boys, Tony?
For me, I thought Rob Holding was very good when he came on. He seemed to match Walcott for pace at times, which was strange. He held his own in the strength battles. I don't think any of the chances were particularly his fault. And look, I think Socrates has been very good since he's come in. But thinking of all the chances they had, they were all while Socrates was on the pitch. So I know they were early on, but when Calvert-Lewin went through, it was Socrates on the pitch. When Walcott went through, it was Socrates. When Richarlison, both his shot that just went wide, that was definitely when Socrates on the pitch. The one that Czech saved, I'm not sure about. So again, I'm not blaming Socrates for anything, but I think we looked a bit more calm with Rob Holding there, to be honest. I don't think we faced as much pressure once Holding was on the pitch.
Yeah, I thought he had a good game too. Schwinn, Iwobi, Welbeck.
Iwobi was good as well. I thought he carried some of the momentum he had gained during the midweek, and was happy to take players on. Again, very good strength, very good tenacity, and was combining well. I think he picked up the pace of the game very well and didn't have any problem in slotting right in. He does seem more natural on the left than Aubameyang, which of course we've spoken about. But at some point, especially as the games go thicker during the latter parts of the season, I don't think we can stick with Lacazette and Aubameyang. We'll need some more rotation, and I think Iwobi is one of those players who's going to be knocking on the manager's door if this form continues. Welbeck was good. He worked hard, made a good couple of runs, wasn't really found. I think there was one chance that was begging to be played in towards the right when he didn't really get his head up and just played Iwobi towards the left, and the Emirates faithful let him know that they were not particularly approving of that. But he works hard. He shows a lot of desire. He makes himself available on the counter, and that late on when you're pegged back in your half, that's really what you want. So good on him to come out and work hard.
No, I couldn't agree. Couldn't agree more, mate. He did well. Awabi did well as well, I thought. Tony, every week we've seen Guendouzi, Torreira, Granite. We've seen the trio type of swap around half time. Emery's not sure who. He's obviously Torreira and Granite. They played a full game. Were you surprised Guendouzi didn't come on at any stage, or is that basically cement them two as midfielders?
No, I mean, look, I'm not just saying me, but a lot of people after the Cardiff game, we knew what them two were going to eventually be our starting two. I said at the time that the only doubt was Newcastle because of the international break, but after that, Torreira would be in the team. So for me, I can't see much rotation, including Guendouzi in proper first-team games. He'll probably play against Brentford. But for me, I think fitness allowing and suspensions and whatnot, I think we've seen our starting two that is going to be in our strongest team.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Man of the match for you?
Check. Yep. By an absolute distance.
Yeah, I agree too. Check for me. Schwinn?
Yeah, no doubt. Kept us in the game, earned us the clean sheet, and if it wasn't for him, it could have been a cricket score.
It goes, but I mean, it's similar to what I said about Socrates last week against Newcastle, and I know some people agreed, some people didn't, but you can argue about what the attacking player's done in the second half, but had Cech not what he done in the first half, we were 2 or 3-0 down and the game's finished. So I mean, it's I'm basing it on a similar principle as I gave Socrates it against Newcastle. That if they don't do what they do, the attacking players' input becomes almost non-existent or not important.
Mm-hmm. Walcott got a good welcome home.
Yeah, he always does. He got clapped off. It's interesting. He done an interview during the week saying he would definitely celebrate if he scores, which is very optimistic when you're Theo Walcott. Yeah. I mean, I personally think he's all talk. I don't think he would have celebrated. But yeah, he got a good reception when his name was read out before the game, and then when he got subbed off, he got quite a loud clap. So fair play to him. Look, he gave us a lot of service. He had some good moments. Yes, we had some bad moments, but he always tried for us. So fair enough. He deserves it for me.
Okay, I want to touch on 2 players, boys, before we go to some live callers and some questions. So, 2 players that really bugged the fucking hell out of me last night, and you guys might agree or disagree. Ramsey, yes, I know he got 2 assists, but he just, I don't know. I don't know where he fits in or how he fits in. And another one is Hector Bellerin. Now, I know the haters, the lovers are out there going to go, oh, fuck, Tez is hating on Bellerin again. But I just, what he runs up that wing, he gives balls away. It's almost, I just can't put my finger on it, boys. But what he does, I don't see any benefit of what he does. He seems to have a great engine and seems to do something, but there's no product at the end of what he does. Your thoughts, Tony?
To be honest, I was quite surprised because I didn't think Ramsey was awful yesterday, but then I come out of the ground, looked on Twitter, and everyone was on his back, and it surprised me. And I'm not basing that on 2 assists. I thought he's running and pressing, especially when you look at, as I said earlier, they had Davis and Idrissa Gana Gueye, who are both known for their engine. You need someone to combat that. So even if Ramsey might have not done loads on the ball, and I've not seen the stats, he might have given the ball away a bit. I don't know, but I thought he had an okay performance. As I said, he matched them for energy. He was there when obviously to get them assists. Even though look, they're both pretty simple passes, and I personally think he ran the second one. But you still have to be there to do that. So I didn't think he was awful. I'm not saying he was good, but I didn't think he was anywhere near as bad as everyone's saying, and that doesn't mean I think he should play there, because I absolutely don't. But I think yesterday, from my opinion, a lot of people are moaning just because they don't want him there and not so much on his actual performance. In terms of Hector, he had one moment where I was pulling my hair out when Richarlison backed into him and Hector was just completely the wrong side. I just thought, what are you doing? Like, it was just the most basic of defending. But beyond that, and again, I'm not a huge Hector fan, I thought he had a pretty solid game. Again, nothing to write home about, but as I said, I think the only mistake was he got pinned by Richarlison on the wrong side, and then Richarlison went on to shoot, and I think it was one check saved, probably midway through the first half. But apart from that, I thought he had a pretty solid game, and I'm by no means a Hector fan, so I'm not coming at that with any bias.
Yep. Schwinn?
Yeah, it's tough to disagree with all of that. Ramsey, the criticism for Ramsey, I think mostly comes from, as Tony said, that we've seen what Ramsey is capable of. I mean, if you see one of the instances where he dropped deep in the first half, it was one of the best chances we created that eventually saw Nacho take a shot on, and that was a good save from Pickford. Ramsey plays the ball into Mesut Ozil. After dropping deep, Mesut Ozil finds Hector Bellerin, who plays in a good first-time cross. And you could even see Ramsey at that moment is pretty much on the edge of the box, if not 3-4 yards inside it, because he's always chasing his pass. So we can see glimpses of that, and we've seen that in the past. So I think it's more of that fans being transposing those ideas and that history we've seen of Ramsey playing from the deep. So I understand the criticism that comes from Ramsey starting in the 10, and what that eventually leads to, it leads to a lot of other displacement into the team. So look, none of us are big fans of Ramsey being deployed out there, especially when, as Tony mentioned before we started recording, that he was our highest, according to the heat map, he was the furthest forward throughout the game, which again, begs a lot of questions as to what exactly do we need him to do there. In terms of Hector Bellerin, I thought this was one of his better attacking performances. I thought he played a couple of good passes inside and was a bit more involved. Look, Richarlison is one of the better wingers, at least on form in the Premier League, and I thought that he didn't really have a good game. But Hector Bellerin is suspect defensively, and I thought Mustafi was able to bail him out every now and then, and Lucas Torreira did a very good job on Richarlison when tracking back. But we all know where Hector has been lacking. And for the past 3-4 weeks, it was in the attack, and it was good to see him at least improve in one department, even if that meant a bit of a sacrifice in the other.
Yeah, I never see any end product from him. He looks good, and he looks like he's going to do something, but then it fizzles to nothing. And I noticed, him and Ozil were trying to do little things, and I think Ozil was getting a bit frustrated because it wasn't coming off, so it was just no end product. And for me, and then he lacks that defence, and I don't want to write him off, but because I get behind all our players on the team, but it just frustrates me. That's all.
I think just quickly, Tess. I think one of the differences when Mkhitaryan plays and when Mesut Ozil plays is when we have Mickey on the right, a lot more of the build-up happens on the right. And then at that point, you have some of the central midfielders also on the right because they're helping with the interchanging and some of the interplay. So if you do lose the ball, you have some players in the area to be able to bail you out or for Hector to come back. When you have Mesut Ozil on the team, he drifts in central and he tends to go a bit towards the left side. And you, at that point, are hoping for Bellerin to make a surging run forward when the scales are tipped towards the left. If you do lose the ball in that case, I think Bellerin is left with no cover. And I think that leads to a lot of his demise on the defensive end. Yesterday, I thought actually he took a couple of players on, which we've not seen over the past 2-3 weeks. And he actually put in a couple of good deliveries. I get your point. I think he's not doing enough. I do agree with that. But based on what we've seen, I think there was a slight improvement, at least offensively, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just look at the other side when you look at Nacho and Aubameyang, and obviously Granit's there as well most of the time. But we don't seem to lack the goals down that side as opposed to Bellerin Ozil's side. I don't like I say. I just can't. I can never put my finger on it, but I just. Maybe he does. He gets up too high, and then, if he does lose the ball, then it's hard to track back, and he's waiting for, Mustafi's got to bail him out, or Torreira, I suppose. So maybe you're right there too. I'll have another look at that next week when we play.
And a bit of credit to Torreira for, Tony gave him some credit for combining in that goal, but I thought he did very well not to get booked and get sent off after, getting his first yellow card in the 15, 16 minutes in. So some credit there to Lucas Torreira to keep his head on his shoulders and not really get carried away.
Yeah. Okay, boys, let's get to some live callers. Each and every week we're joined by our wonderful listeners, and this week we've got Matty. How are you, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm good, thanks.
That's all right, mate. 3 points, happy days against Everton?
Yeah, definitely. I can't moan. But I think we were lucky that Everton didn't score for a couple of goals initially. We were really on the back foot.
No worries, mate. Who's that in the background saying g'day? What do you got for us this week, mate?
Yeah, I have one question. Is like Tom Davis and the other player, Ghana, I think, both made a lot of, I should say, systematic fouls to ruffle us up. But I also seen a couple of stats in which we attempted a lot of tackles. Maybe I should say unsuccessful tackles, and fouled Everton players. So, what do you think, guys? That was it like we improved on our game management, because halftime we were 0-0, and that was actually a positive sign that we are not conceding, even though we were attacked a lot. That was my first question, and second question was. As much as Ozil, I'm sure we're going to discuss a lot about Ozil, Ramsey, and their positioning and all. But I felt instead of substituting Ramsey, I think we should have substituted Ozil, because Ozil was like almost energy-less towards the end of match, and I felt that could have proved very difficult in the end. But fortunately, we survived.
Yeah, no worries, mate. You run a marathon over there, buddy? Yeah, it seemed like you're out of breath.
Yeah, actually, I'm walking down to pick up my daughter from tuition. So.
Very good. Okay, Tony, what do you got, mate?
Just to pick up on the first question for me, and I kept saying this at the game yesterday, I very highly rate Idrissa Gana Gueye, and he does have a lot of systematic fouls, but he's very clever in the way he fouls, in that he very rarely picks up bookings. He's a lot like Fernandinho in that he fouls you without ever making a tackle, so it's rare that you get booked for them. With our attempted tackles, I don't know if it came from trying to intercept the ball more and trying to nick the ball more that you're gonna give away more fouls. For me, the only foul I can think we gave away that was potentially dangerous was the Socrates one on Walcott, where Digne's free kick was tipped over by Cech, and Socrates made that foul on purpose. He knew he was beat, so he took the booking, which I'm more than happy for. So as long as you're fouling in the right areas, I haven't seen it again. So from the ground, Torreira's booking looked a little harsh. It looked like a foul, but maybe a bit harsh on the booking. I could be completely wrong because I've not seen a replay. And then on top of that, I know we got other bookings, but I can't remember any as standout. So the fouling doesn't bother me. As I said, there's such thing as a good foul, and I think at times as Arsenal fans we tend to not appreciate good fouls in brackets. In terms of saying that the first half was positive going in 0-0, I think for me it wasn't, because it wasn't like it was a defensive masterclass. If they had been 2 or 3-0 up, or they'd scored 2 or 3, no one would have batted an eyelid, really. They were still getting through, and Cech made 2 or 3 very, very good saves. In terms of the Ozil and Ramsey thing, I think, look, Ramsey's got the better energy going late in the game, but Ozil's much more likely to control the ball and keep the ball ticking over. And if you're going to just kick it long and chase it, then you've got Danny Welbeck to do that. You don't need him and Ramsey doing it, because Welbeck's 10 levels above Ramsey at doing that. He's quicker, he's stronger. Okay, he's not as good when he's got the ball, but if you're just playing kick and chase, you want your quickest guy or your strongest guy who can hold it up to do that. Whereas if Ozil will get the ball, he can play 5-yard passes and keep it. He can play 60-yard switches and keep it. And when he's purely trying to keep the ball and not trying to slide someone through or whatnot, he's actually quite hard to dispossess. He turns quite a lot. I mean, we all know he cuts back on his left all the time. So I think in terms of game management, it was probably more sensible to keep Ozil there rather than just kicking it long and inviting the pressure. You give it to Ozil, you can hope you can keep it for 10, 20, 30 seconds. Whereas with Ramsey, you're just going to kick it long. He's going to chase it. It might go out for a throw on, it might go out for a goal kick, but then usually they've got the ball back again very quickly. That's my preference. I always think one of the things that lost us the Champions League final to Barcelona was that we took Fabregas off, and I know at the time people were thinking, I'll bring on more pace and power. I can't remember who came on. But for me, I prefer someone that will keep the ball because it just means the attacks aren't constantly coming back at you. But it's personal preference. There's no right or wrong, I don't think.
Okay. Schwinn, you want to add anything on that, mate?
Not really.
No. What do you think of that, Matty?
Yeah, I agree with the second point completely. About first point, guys, I mean, sometimes I feel we kind of umpire our prejudice for Arsenal tackling, or maybe we are so apologetic the moment we do a tackle. It's like we are bound to get foul, or foul or get a yellow card. So maybe it's about body language, or I don't know what is it, or maybe we are too anxious. But I've seen many times we are being unnecessarily booked or unnecessarily given disadvantage by umpires, whereas there are many teams who does a proper fouling. I don't know what is it. So yeah, that was my about first point.
So you think they need a bit more training in the fouling department? Is that what you're saying?
More than fouling, I would say more tackling, getting tackles perfectly. I'm trying to that, and maybe we don't have to be apologetic. I'm not saying we should injure some other players. But what I mean is, you don't have to be like, okay, you must have seen many times Mustafi, Nacho, all like, oh, forgive me, or something like that. So that's something we can probably improve upon.
Yeah. Okay. No. Okay, mate. Well, we'll have a think about that. And you anything to add there on that, Don?
No, thanks for that. Yeah.
No worries. Cheers, Matty.
Yeah, cheers.
Okay, Vish, you with us, mate?
Yeah, I'm here, Tez.
How are you, buddy?
Can't complain.
Good.
Got a heart attack watching Arsenal play again.
they do that to us all, mate.
Yeah.
What do you got this week for us, buddy?
My question is, it's kind of a conspiracy theory because it seems to me that the referees are biased against Arsenal, because whenever we foul somebody, we are judged harshly, we're given yellow cards. Yet, when, like you said, when Idrissa Gana Gueye did it, and the rest of the Everton players do it, or any other team does it to us, is just play on. Why is that so? That's one question. And the second question is, do we need to change our system again, or do these guys do the guys still need to bend into Emery's system? Because somehow us playing with Ozil and Ramsey is just not working.
Tony, I'd love to look at some stats, because and when I say stats, I'd like to know how many yellow cards we've actually got this year. If you've got, is Tony not with us?
I'm here, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know whether you know off the top of your head, have we actually had a lot of yellow cards?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I can't remember us getting like a glut of any in one game where you're just picking them up all the time. I do think, and I say this all the time, that refs often work on reputation. Like, I was talking about this to someone yesterday, and when I was saying about Gana Gueye being brilliant at giving away fouls, like making the right fouls, but never getting booked, they said, oh yeah, Fernandinho's like the master of it. And I think he's just got that reputation where he gets away with it. I always used to say, like, if Joey Barton tackled a bit hard, it was like, oh, that's what he does, so it's okay. Victor Wanyama at Tottenham, he just runs into people. He doesn't actually make a tackle, he just runs into people. It's a foul every time. But because they're never serious fouls, he never gets booked. And I said, I think you just get this reputation. It was like Xhaka's first year. I know he still gets booked a lot, but Xhaka's first year, when he came with that reputation, the rest were actively looking to book him. He didn't have to do anything to get a booking or a red card. Both of his he got two red cards that season, and both were very debatable. So I think, I mean, I wouldn't say there's a bias against us, but I think especially where we don't have a reputation as a tough tackling team, when someone does start tackling tough, it's like, oh, that's not what they do. That's a bit over the top for them. It shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be for them. It should just be the rules. But when they go, it's over the top for them, it kind of becomes a worse offence. And there's other teams will suffer from it. It's not just us, but we're obviously looking at it from an Arsenal angle. I dare say someone like Bournemouth probably feel the same thing. All teams that are kind of seen as nice tackling, like nice playing teams, probably see that same effect. Whereas someone that you'd think of, I know they're not in the Premier League anymore, but someone like Stoke, who have the reputation as a hard team, a tough, horrible, cold night at Stoke, they'll get away with more because it's sort of just seen like, well, that's what they do, which is nonsense, but it is what happens. And I spoke to, I've got a friend who was a former Championship ref. He never got as high as the Premier League, but he refed in the Championship. And I asked him, I always ask him questions like this, and I find it quite interesting to talk to him. And he always says that the refs just ref games on situation and prior knowledge, unless something extraordinary happens. They worry about if, say, something... So say you foul or you tackle the other team's keeper and he's a bit 50-50 if it's a foul or not. This ref told me that 99% of refs will always give it, because if he's wrong and he's let you score, that's a huge mistake. If he's just given a foul, no one's going to remember that tomorrow. Whereas if he's made a mistake and they've scored. So the refs do massively referee on situations and on reputation, which, as I said, is wrong, but it's what they do.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I just had a quick look at the yellow cards. So West Ham, they've obviously got their top it with 20 yellow cards so far. Watford 13, Brighton 12, Leicester 11, Southampton 11, Arsenal, Burnley 11. So, you know, we're sitting in 6th on yellow cards.
I mean, that's less in 6 games, so that's less than 2 a game, which is low.
Yeah.
And as I said, I mean, look, you guys can correct me because you would have seen replays and better angles. Was Torreira's a booking yesterday? Should it have been?
Schwinn?
The first one?
The one he got booked for?
The one he got booked for in early.
That's definitely a booking. I think that we have a question on this later as well, but the one against Digne was absolutely never a booking. But the one on Sigurdsson, I'd probably give that as a yellow. I mean, the thing with that is that, as you said, right, Tony, it's a lot to do with the situation, and every now and then the referee will decide against it just because it's that early in the game or it's their first challenge, and maybe John Moss gives it, but Andre Mariner doesn't. So it's a tough one, but I'd have to raise my hand and say I'd give that as a yellow.
I will also add that for me, I said it. I was in club level yesterday, and you get a free program, which I never buy, but I got a program, and it said John on the front page. It said John Moss, or the back page, sorry, it said John Moss is a referee, and I just started moaning instantly because I don't know if it is his fitness. Obviously, he doesn't look very fit, but he looks for every opportunity to break the game up. And I personally think it's because he's not fit enough to run around the whole time. So he breaks it up at all times. And if he's breaking the game up by giving fouls and all this so often, at some point he's eventually going to have to start booking people, because there's going to be questions asked. You've given 20 fouls and no one's been booked. What's going on? And for me, it's because most of the time they aren't fouls, or they don't need to be given as fouls, but he wants to break the game up. I find he's a horrible ref to try and get a rhythm under, because he literally just blows a whistle whenever he can.
Yeah, look, there was only there was the three yellow cards in the whole game yesterday, but there's a few free kicks there. I remember one of Granite's. He went and called him over and had a little talking to him, but he didn't give that as yellow. So the 2 bookings. I mean, Socrates was definitely a booking. Yeah, and then Torreira, as I said, was the one I was a bit unsure of. Yeah, definitely bookings for me. What was the second question, Vish? Did we answer that?
No, I didn't.
The structure.
Yeah. Well, do you think the guys will need to bet into Emery's system, or do we need to change certain personnel or remove personnel? Like either we keep Ramsey and take out Ozil, or keep Ozil and remove Ramsey. Because coming up against Watford, and we know they can score. They're sitting 4th in the league right now. So what do you think our chances are going to be against them?
Go with you, Schwinn.
That'll be a tough game. I mean, from what I've seen of Watford, which has been just a couple of games, and they've done pretty well so far in the season, looking at the table, I think they're a very physical side, and again, hard-working, hard-running. We need to be at our A game that day in terms of our creativity, because we like to work around players instead of taking them on. And I can see us struggling that day if things carry on the way they did, especially in the first half yesterday. I think there has to be a change. When you have three attacking players, Ramsey, Mesut Ozil, and Aubameyang, all playing out of their favorite positions, you will struggle, and you might get the odd goal like yesterday. I mean, let's face it. Other than Lacazette's goal, Aubameyang's goal should have been disallowed. And Lacazette's goal, you cannot rely on a goal like Lacazette scored every week, because what are the odds of us being able to pick one out into the top corner? So I think we struggled yesterday, and of course the goals take a lot of pressure off. But I think there'll be heavy rotation this week for Brentford, and maybe some work done on the training ground. But that's the thing, we don't see any change coming into this team so far. Emery seems pretty solid and robust with this selection. So I'm not sure if we're going to see any change. But as we've spoken about on this podcast, we'd all love to see change.
And just touching on the Watford game, I watched the Fulham Watford. Watford weren't exactly that great in the second half, so I don't know, whether they're coming back down to earth a little bit, who knows. But they also lost to Man United too, didn't they? Last week, I think so.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right.
2-1 or something it was. So okay, they're a dangerous team, but I'd like to think we've got them covered. I'd be very.
And they'll have something under their bellies that day, a fire lit, just because it's Arsenal. Troy Deeney's, of course, the face of that club. He likes to tug at our strings a bit, and it's sort of like a rivalry. Not in terms of stature, of course, but in the last couple of years, there's a bit of history there. Yeah, so it'll be one of those games.
I got sent a fucking custard pass on that one. Fucking some poor cunt says, "Oh yeah, throw Deeney in your fantasy league." Yeah, thanks, cunt. Okay, Vish, thanks for your question, buddy. I hope we answered it, and we might catch you next week, eh?
All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
Good on you, buddy. Thanks, mate. And you two can talk to us on each and every week like Vish and Maddie have done, and you can find our bio in at clockend_talk and jump on Skype and have a yak to the boys. Okay, so thank you to our live callers. Right, boys, let's get into some questions. We've got a few there, so we'll start with... fuck me. Utkash? Is that his swing?
Yeah,
Utkash. Definitely put him first on purpose.
Fucking hell. Is it Utkash? Utkash.
There you go. Wow, that's impressive.
I'll practice that. Probably been practicing up on my... pronunciation, mate.
It's still AFC Quickstart, though. I mean, I've corrected you and told you it's Quixote, but every time he sends in a question, it's still AFC Quickstart.
Yeah, Quixote. Yeah, that's it. I remember that.
You say this every week and then call him Quickstop.
I'll forget. By the time we finish this podcast, I'll forget who that bloke even is. No disrespect to that listener, but I just like fucking, I got no idea. Okay, will Iwobi be effective on the right? If not Iwobi, then Mickey on the right. Maybe a better option. Then to play Ozil and Ramsey together, our right wing was on fire in the Chelsea game, Tony.
There's two sides to this. Iwobi has never been able to play on the right. I don't know what it is. He just never looks comfortable there. He's a million times better on the left. Even when he's been awful, he's been less awful on the right. In terms of Mickey, I kind of think he failed an audition. He was poor defensively. Like you say, the right wing was on fire against Chelsea, and it was attacking wise, but defensively, two of the goals conceded were directly from the right, and one of them was Mickey's fault in a big way. I remember saying at the time, I thought his first half hour of that game was one of the worst individual performances I've seen from an Arsenal player in a long time. And then in the next 8 minutes, he pops up, gets a goal and assist, and sort of all's forgiven. But it obviously wasn't forgotten because he's pretty much dropped out of the team since then. He does, I would probably argue he does less defensively than Ozil. In an ideal world, I would probably have Ozil 10, Mickey right. But the defensive side of things, although Hector bombs on and he'll get in behind their defence, it leaves him with absolutely no protection. It'll be something worth trying now. Torreira's got his place in the team, because maybe he'll cover that gap. But there's no way they can do what they've done against Chelsea with them two, because it was just every time Chelsea got the ball, there to do was kick it over to their left side of the pitch and they was in. Mickey just completely neglects his defensive duties, which I don't know if it's even a criticism, because he's played at 10 a lot of his career and probably not had to defend, but he won't get away with doing that under Emery.
But you made a good point though with Torreira there. Like he's obviously there, and he might be able to help him out, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's something that's worth trying, but at what point do you try it? Where do you take the risk?
Yeah,
because look, no games are given at the moment. We're not playing well enough to turn up and think we're automatically going to win against anyone, apart from sort of the Europa League or Brentford if we play a first team. But you don't want to play a first team in them games, so it's difficult to try it. And also, I may be wrong because he may have been subbed off by then, but Torreira was on the pitch when Chelsea got their third, and I believe Mickey was still on the right. I may be wrong. I can't remember that far back. So it could be seen as, if I am right and Mickey was still on the right, it could be seen as, they were both on the pitch and it still didn't work.
Yeah,
you never know. But for me, you can't play Mickey on the right just because of his defensive or lack of defensive duties. Really, it's a difficult one because none of us agree with Ramsey playing at 10, and we'd all have Ozil there if we could. But the right is a huge problem, because for me, I remember I said this again after the Chelsea game, or the first half hour of the Chelsea game. I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Welbeck gets a run there, because he's going to do his defensive job. He'll slow you down football wise, but if you want to press, he's perfect. If you need to go long and you're in trouble, he's perfect. When we do have to go long from goal kicks, we've got someone to aim at. And as I said, he'll do his defensive duties. The issue is there'll be no link up with Bellerin because Danny Welbeck can't pass a football. I think for all of the potential candidates, there's positives, but there's also very big negatives.
Yeah.
And that's the issue we're dealing with. But that's our own fault, because we all knew in the summer we needed a winger, and no one bothered to address that issue. So we've only got ourselves to blame, or they've only got themselves to blame.
Yeah, exactly. Emery said there's still plenty of work to be done, so maybe we might. I don't think it'll happen, but maybe, who knows, we might see a formation change, because somehow I think you've got to fit Ramsey in the team, but the way it's happening, it's not that good. So I don't know what formation you'd even have it though.
I mean, I do, but I've been banging on about it for the last month, and me saying it again ain't going to change anything. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I probably forgot about that last month. He goes on, simple question, which midfielder is better? Schwinn. Well, it's no point Schwinn answering. It's no point me answering, because he's going Lucas, Granit, Ozil, Guendouzi. Oh, no, he's... so Lucas, Granit, Ozil, Guendouzi, Granit or Ramsey. So go, Schwinn. A simple question. Which midfield is better out of them two?
It's not really a simple question, though, is it? I think it's very nuanced, and you have to sort of see what the structure will be if you deploy these two pairs. I mean, if I had to choose between these two, I'd probably choose Lucas, Granit, and Mesut. I think it provides a bit more dynamism. With Mesut Ozil in there, you have the forward passing of Granit, which is, of course, common to both pairs. But then you have someone like Lucas Torreira, who brings in that defensive solidity. So that would be my pair. Yeah,
well, looking at the other one, Ramsey'd be at 10, I suppose, would it?
Yeah, see, that's what I think it boils down to. Do you play a double pivot with a 10, or do you play a V-shaped midfield with two interior players? I would imagine if it's the first group is a double pivot with Mesut Ozil as 10, and a V-shaped midfield for the second one, where Xhaka sits back and Guendouzi and Ramsey are the interior midfielders. That's what I would imagine when I look at these names.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Gator Gooner Tony. I'm not a tactician. What's he saying?
Tactician. I'm not even reading it, and I know he's saying tactician.
I'm not a tactician, but I noticed during several times in the game the middle of the pitch was absent. Any players, everyone was running at the goal or sitting back in defence. how are we supposed to build up from the back? Even the TV announcer was pointing it out.
I think it's one of the issues with Ramsey, and I'm actually not blaming him for this. If it was this time last year, I'd have been blaming Ramsey for this. I think it's one of the issues with Ramsey being so high up, but he's clearly supposed to be there because he keeps doing it and nothing's changing. In the years gone by, I'd have said I'd have blamed Ramsey for emptying the midfield, but now it's clearly an instruction of his that he's given to stay high up. But I think that is one of the issues. The defenders get the ball. They've got two options now with Xhaka and Torreira there, which is helpful. But then there is a huge gap, and you end up just spraying it wide. What it does allow is if we build up from centre backs to the centre midfielders, in theory it means the fullbacks have got time to press on, and it gives you another option. But it does leave there is a huge gap. It's a 4-2-3-1 we're playing, but there's no what I'd call level midfielders. There's defensive midfielders and attacking midfielders, and there's no link at all. For me, in an ideal world, Ramsey would drop a little bit deeper and be the link. But as I said, I'm not blaming him because it must be something they're telling him to do. Because it's not once it's happened, and he's not 2 or 3 yards too high. He's 25 yards higher or 20 yards higher than what most of us would expect. So I don't see how I can criticise him when it's something they've obviously told him to do. But it is an issue. He's right. There is a huge gap there. But it must be for some reason. I don't know. Like when Guardiola first came in, if people remember that, he got the ball into midfield and then he used his fullback, to tuck in, and they almost played like centre midfielders. It's something he'd done a lot at Bayern with Alaba and Philipp Lahm as well. And then he came in at City and he tried to do it with Sanya and Clichy and Kolarov, and it looked horrible. But then he started moving centre midfielders to left back. They all started playing there. And I don't know if that's something that Emery's trying to get us to do, whereas the centre backs will give it to the centre midfielders, and then the fullbacks will create the extra men by either tucking in or one tucking in and one staying wide and giving you extra options and closing that gap where there is no midfielder. I don't know if that's something he's trying to do, but there is clear for everyone to see there is a huge gap there, and for me it's too big.
Mm-hmm. I think just before the international break we talked about our Emery, what rating we give him. I'll tell you what, he's impressive. He's impressing. 4 wins in a row. I'm happy with him the way he's going. Like anybody who criticises him too much, you only got to look at. I think he's improved this Arsenal team, and I know you can't compare to Wenger, but I don't know if we all expected if you expected this or not.
I think if I look at the 4 games we've won, I expected us to win them, and if I look at the 2 we lost, I probably expected us to lose them, if I'm honest. Yeah. So for me, it's par for the course. It's definitely not. There's no negative. Well, there's some negatives, but it's not a negative overall thought on him. But I'm not glowingly positive. What I will say is I'm happy that we're winning when we're still clearly way short of where he wants us to be. So if you can win while you're learning, it's not a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. No, true. Hakon Schwen, he says it's so many things about this game, but it's still the same you have been talking about before. Long way to go. Some of it's not so fucking hard to sort out. Emery knew so much of every player. He must know how to improve them at least a bit. Agree. He goes on. Did you notice that Digny tried to send Torreira off? A second yellow. Even Marco Silva was screaming with the fingers in the air. Torreira didn't even touch him, almost lost the plot and smashed my TV. Disgusting.
I was pretty similar at that point myself, actually, because Torreira didn't catch him at all. If anything, Digne was on top of Torreira's foot, because Torreira's foot had already landed there, and there was no contact. So, there's a bit of the Barcelona in there going on, right? He spent a year there, but he's learnt some of the dark arts. In terms of the sorting out comment, it makes me feel that he's not trying to sort this out. He's found what he seems to be, deems to be the right or his way of playing, and he's going to let these players figure it out by playing it every week, drill it in them, and during the weekend, and see what comes of it in the weekend. I don't think it's going to change a whole lot from this. Of course, Ramsey's contract situation is something that's lingering in the shadows, and if he does indeed leave, then we will see some switch around. but it's clear that he's very detail oriented. The players have said it themselves, and he wants improvement. But I don't think it's a case of sorting out. I think this is it. This is how we're going to play. There will be some rotation depending on what fixtures we have in the near future. But on a given weekend, if we have our full squad available and if it's an important game, this is the lineup. And I think a lot of fans expected that high press, high intensity game, but that's not quite, I think, what he's going for. I think he's going for a slightly different model than what we've seen, under Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola, and only time will tell what exactly he wants to achieve with this team tactically. To me, it's still an enigma. I see a lot of Arsene Wenger's team in this team still. Not a lot has changed, if I'm honest, and Tony's spoken about this before. And yes, we're winning while we're learning, and I'm very happy about that, but I haven't really seen this become Emery's team. I know it's very early, but even the way we play out from the back, even the small things we do, I haven't really seen a whole lot of change. I mean, Tez, you just spoke about some of the improvement. I was wondering if there's a couple of items you wanted to list out that you thought we were doing a bit different than what we did in the years past.
Don't know. Because this playing out of the back thing, it's always been there, but for some reason the press are talking it up a lot. This playing out of the back. So and Czech turned. He went different, and went long yesterday as well. So he wasn't always playing out from the back. If anything, I think we're a bit more creative under Wenger. I don't, with the top three, Ozil, Lacazette, Ramsey. I think we're a little bit more creative and move the ball quicker than we are now. So I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, to be honest.
I mean, surely that's got to be a positive for Arsene and hence a negative for Emery, right?
I don't know what Emery's trying to do there, though. Like, he mightn't want it to be as quick. He mightn't want it to be as creative, and free flowing. He might want it to be more structural. I don't know.
I mean, I guess a spin on that would be that we, in the years past, especially last year, we struggled to finish a lot of times, particularly against the deep defenses. I think this year at least so far, we've been able to finish chances, other than the City game and, of course, the Chelsea game, which was an anomaly because we're missing 4-yard, 5-yard attempts. We've been able to get our chances and finish them. Lacazette, of course, scored a couple of bangers, but we've found the back of the net. And we struggled with that last season, especially when we were away from home. So I guess that's a positive. But, I mean, when you have the players we have, I don't really think you want to stifle their creativity. But when a defense is being stubborn, then the only way to beat them down is to be quick with your movement. And we saw a glimpse of that when Nacho got that chance yesterday because we moved the ball real quick. So I don't think Emery is really going for quote unquote structure over fluidity. But as you were speaking, I thought that, we have been able to bury our chances more. So maybe that's a positive.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I just and keep in mind, Wenger, we didn't have a striker for a good, for a long time, did he? Like I think Walcott was there, Giroud. There wasn't that Lacazette or Aubameyang like we've got now. So, and just touching on your finishes, but yeah, I don't know what it is. It was just the football, and it's not a negative by any means, but the football that we used to watch and that Wenger used to, or the Wenger ball you can call it, I suppose, but it was just unbelievable. Like it was just fast flowing, creative. And there'd be goals coming out of, basically nothing. And I just haven't seen that under Emery. And I said I don't know if he is restricting a little bit or wanting. But then you see Bellerin running up like a fucking headless chook and crossing the ball in. So I don't know. He's probably always done that, I suppose. But yeah.
Tony, you wanna come in on that and give your 2 cents?
I do think it's more controlled possession over fluidity. I think Arsenal, a lot of what they've done, and I've seen players that played against us comment on it, it was very hard to stop because it was so off the cuff. They had all of the players were so used to playing 1 and 2 touch football that it was all natural to them. So it wasn't like set routines, and it makes it very hard to defend against someone who's not making it up as they go along. But I can't think of a better way to play it. They're just playing the pass they see rather than playing in systems. Whereas I think now we're a lot more structured. Again, not a positive or a negative. I think it's probably a bit easier to defend against, but if you're looking after the ball for all that time, you're also less likely to concede. I don't feel we give the ball away as cheaply as often as we have done in previous years. I think we are massively hampered by the lack of wingers because teams are letting us have it out wide. I mean, yesterday we got away with it a bit because, as I said earlier, Walcott didn't really want to defend. So we ended up with, most of the time, one-on-one with Aubameyang on John Joe Kenny, who, let's be honest, isn't the best. One of my friends played with him in the lower leagues a few years ago and said he will never be a Premiership footballer. But then I've got family members that support Everton and say they've improved quite a lot. But, I mean, he's never going to be up to Aubameyang standards. But then most of the time it was 2-on-1 or 3-on-1 anyway because Ramsey was drifting across there. So we got away with it a bit on the wings yesterday, but in general, teams are letting us go wide, knowing that we've got no threat there, especially if it's Aubameyang wide, because Lacazette tends to not be in the box, which means we've got, even if we do get it wide, we can't really cross it, and we're going to have to pull it back. And you will still score a certain amount of goals like that, like Ozil's against Newcastle, but in general, it's a lot less threatening. But we're not even 2 months into in terms of game time. I know he's been there since July the 1st in practical terms, but in terms of game time, we're not even 10 games in. So it's understandable that he's not got it completely flowing yet. It will be interesting to see how he changes it because I think the way we're attacking at the moment, teams will figure it out very quickly.
Oh, and he said there's still plenty of more work to do. So.
Yeah. One thing I do find interesting though, and I read a piece on it, I think it was this morning, about I spoke last week and now he's just made me out to be a liar, that he's really, like, of the two centre midfielders, especially when Granit and Torreira play together, it's almost like that Granit plays on the left and Torreira plays on the right, and it's very unusual to see that with centre midfielders. They're usually sort of wherever the danger is. But he's clearly decided that they have key roles in what side of the pitch they look after. And that's another thing that when I know a lot of people are going to say they want Granit dropped at times, whether they're saying it now or they say it in a couple of weeks, or they said it a couple of weeks ago. But if you split your centre midfielders into left and right, which is what he seems to be doing, no one else is going to play on the left ahead of him.
Yeah, no chance. No chance. Anybody will tell you over the legend. I thought you were going to go in about that article that you shared.
No, I just read it on that article and I found it interesting. So I looked at the
because I still haven't read it yet. So yeah.
No, I looked on the heat map from yesterday when I read it as well, and Granit's work was the vast majority of it was on towards the left centre, so to speak. Yeah. Torreira's was a bit more all over the place, but it was more on the right side than anywhere else. But Granit was clearly on the left side of the centre midfield, so to speak, or whatever the holding midfield is. And as I said, if you're looking at how they're going to change that, if Granit is to come out, I mean, Ramsey's obviously going to play a lot further forward and Rome's kind of all over the pitch, and you want him to do that with his energy. Guendouzi, I can't really see sticking to the left. So it does leave you with Xhaka as probably the only real first-team option for that left side of the pitch.
I'll go into RC fella. He just goes in and says left side attacks are our most prominent by us, with the heat map showing Granit and Monreal close together. Do you think there was too much focus in this area, or is this the easiest area for us to bring the ball forward? It didn't seem to deliver direct scoring chances, though. Well,
I mean, yesterday it worked. I thought it worked quite well. They were getting in behind Kenny almost at will. As I said, the issue is always going to come when you're crossing the ball and there's no one in there. Or, in all fairness to Lacazette, he does challenge well, but if they've got Keane and Zuma in there as centre-backs, and you've got Lacazette at 5'7", you're probably unlikely to get anywhere from it. But I thought in terms of working down the left, we did build quite well yesterday. And I mean, one of the goal came not directly down the left wing, but it came from the left side of the pitch in terms of Lacazette's goal. The save that Pickford made from Monreal was obviously it's your left back having a shot. So I know the attack came down the right, but you're getting your players overloading the back post at the left. I think usually we're predominantly a team that attacks on the right, but yesterday the opportunity presented itself to attack on the left because Richarlison done his defensive work and Walcott didn't, basically, and Kenny is a lot less experienced than Luca Digne. So.
Okay. Brad says, Schwen, should we just accept that we are a second half team at the moment? Can't think of a game where we played well in the first half.
Tough to argue with that. The Chelsea game, of course, comes to mind where we created a lot of chances. But, instead of calling us a second half team, I want to call us adaptable. Look at it as glass half full. We've been able to change things around, and the manager hasn't really held himself back from making changes at halftime or early into the second half. And I want to see that. I want to see some reaction to things not working out. I tweeted after the game yesterday that not everything goes as you plan for, and how you respond to that, how you cope with that is something that we've been accused of not having in the past. So I guess that's again a big improvement under Emery, that we've been able to switch things around, whether it's because of a stalemate we've been encountering or not been able to score or struggling defensively. We've acted and changed things. So yes, we are a second half team, but we're winning because of being that. So I guess it's a bit more positive than a negative.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Just to add to that, we've not been in a leading position at half time in any game apart from the Europa League, which barely counts. So there is something to worry about. And look, there's a flip side to what Schwinn just said. You could say we're adaptable and we've changed things and it's worked, or you could say he's got it wrong from the start in every single game.
Yeah, well,
so do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that. But I'm saying if you're going to go positive, you have to bring up the negative as well.
Yeah, and you'll never know. Yeah. Ramsey, so Sarvesh, African Gooner, Jove82, RC Fella, and Vish, they've all asked some questions on Ramsey. Is Ramsey still worth as a reason to ship off Ozil down the flanks in a position he does not prefer? Tony?
Look, for me, he never was, but my opinion counts for very little. Almost nothing. Well, actually, no, it counts for absolutely nothing. So, look, for me, and people, look, for me, if you have Mesut Ozil, and I don't really care if people rate him or not, you play him at 10. Like, there's just no, it doesn't really matter who else you've got in your squad. If you have Mesut Ozil, the guy plays at 10. It's as simple as that. So, even if Ramsey was performing well, I'd probably say that. Because that's where you're going to get the best out of Ozil. And I've always said that if Ozil performs, Arsenal perform. Arsenal can perform well without Ozil, but it's very rare that Ozil plays well and the rest of the team don't because of his natural style. So for me, Ramsey's never been worth playing at a 10 in favour of Ozil. And there's no one else. When people say Mkhitaryan, Iwobi, blah, 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 last season people may have even said Jack, and everyone knows how big a fan of Jack I was. But no, for me, if you have Ozil, he plays at 10. That simple. And I mean, I'd be surprised if many people disagree with that, but there'd probably be loads.
Okay. Just on Ramsey's though, and I'll ask you the same question, Schwinn. So obviously contract negotiations are coming up, and this is a tough one because he's hard to fit in the team at the moment. So do you prefer he signs a contract, or do you prefer we get, let's say, 15 to 20 million in January and we look at buying a right winger?
Signs a contract because you'd get 50 million from him in the summer at least.
So you want him to sign and then you'll sell him in the summer?
No, but if you are going to sell him, surely you'd want him to sign and then sell him for double, treble.
Well, if he doesn't sign, though.
That's not good. If he says he's not going to sign, I'd get rid of him in January because I don't think he's particularly adding anything as a 10. And again, that's not his fault because he's being told to play there. But if he doesn't sign, you have to get rid of him in January, the same way we had to get rid of Alexis. and would have said the same about Ozil, but they obviously knew he was signing. They didn't announce it for the day after, but they obviously knew what was going on. I sit in the same position with Danny Welbeck, whose contract runs out in the summer. I know a lot of people don't rate him, but I would tie Danny Welbeck down and get him to sign a new deal. But if he doesn't, he has to go in January.
Mm-hmm. Get something for him.
Yeah, there's no point letting these guys go for free. But with Ramsey, as I said, I think that he's a useful addition in the squad. I think in the right system, he's a brilliant player. I just don't think 10 will ever be for him. And I know people sometimes argue he plays it for Wales, but he doesn't really, because people base that on their Euros where they done exceptional and Ramsey had a great tournament, but they pretty much parked the bus against most teams. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but then they use Ramsey's energy to defend and both attack. He wasn't a 10 in the kind of 10 he's playing at Arsenal, where he's the highest player up the pitch at all times. They played most of the men behind the ball, and they played a big striker, be it Robson Kanu or Vokes. They played long to him. He held it up, and then you had Bale and Ramsey using their athleticism to bridge the gap and come in and make the attacking play. It wasn't like the kind of 10 where he's always ahead of the ball. So for me, Ramsey has never, ever, ever been a 10. I don't count what he done with Wales as a 10 because he wasn't. He wore number 10. It's different.
He wore number 10.
He did.
Yeah, no, that's just the way you said it, though.
Well, yeah, so for me, as I said, it's not a criticism of Ramsey. I don't think he can play as a 10. I don't think it's ever worked whenever it's played for anyone. But can't blame him because it's not his choice.
Yeah, okay. Schwinn on. I'll continue this Ramsey thing. RC fella on Ramsey. During the game, I found myself being constantly annoyed with Ramsey. I felt that he had a poor game, but later realised he picked up 2 assists. Lovely turn and pass to the first goal. We can't be too disappointed with that. Do you guys also feel equally torn about this game?
Yeah, I do. I do feel very torn because, as we discussed at the top of the show, that he's capable of so much more than that. His energy is lacking from the team, and as Tony pointed out, there's 25, 30 yards between our attackers and our deep playing midfielders, and if there's someone who can sort of cover a major portion of that area, it's Aaron Ramsey. He can be that link-up player who even if he's central and Mesut Ozil is out on the right, he can drop a bit deeper and get the ball moving. But more often than not, it's Lacazette who's dropping deeper and facilitating that link-up play. Look, I'm a very big Aaron Ramsey fan, very, very big Aaron Ramsey fan, but we're not getting the best out of him. And he might get that assist or even 2 assists like he did yesterday, but we all know he didn't really have the best of games to his ability. Tony said that he thought he had a decent game. For me, it was not quite brilliant. We all, as I said, we all know he's better. He's capable of much better. And when we have these visible issues in our midfield, we don't have to look elsewhere because we have the player in our team to facilitate that. But it's a bit perplexing as to why we're not doing that. And it is a long-term ploy, I guess, but do you expect a manager to change things around in the short term to sort of change his philosophy and adapt? Or do you expect him to stay rigid and let the team figure it out over a period of time? I guess it's a difference in approaches in terms of the ideology. For me, I want to see a bit more flexibility with the manager, and you really haven't seen any of it so far. I'm not trying to bash Emery, but I think a lot of fans feel this way, and they're not saying it right now because they don't want to be, they don't want to be elsewhere as being negative or as being pessimists. I've always been an Arsene Wenger fan, so people might accuse me of still being in Arsene knows best. It's none of that. It's just simple things that you see in every game that remain common throughout the last 3-4 games.
Here's a classic because we've asked Schwinn prior to doing our questions. We've asked Schwinn to filter our questions. So anyway, Tony, I've got one for you. Rudran, Granite, in addition to Torreira, is a luxury when we have Ramsey, who's the best in clearly the centre mid, not as a number 10. Will Ramsey be the better partner for Torreira in the midfield?
I personally don't think Ramsey can play in a 2 unless... Well, yeah, no, Ramsey can play in a 2, but he'd have to adapt his style. And I don't think they're going to test that because you're too much of a risk. You'd literally be leaving Torreira to do all the defensive work. Look, we commented time and time again last year about how much Ramsey emptied the midfield and left whoever he was playing with isolated, be it Coughlin at the start of the year, El Neni at times, or Granit most of the time. Ramsey is capable of doing that discipline role, but he seems to only want to do it for 2 or 3 games, and then he goes back to his need to score goals. Look, for me, I've said this so many times, I would have all 3 of them playing. And then it allows Ramsey to go and do what he wants, but he'll still have that base behind him. And you could still arguably get Ozil in at 10 if you've done that. You may sacrifice a little bit of width. But then Ramsey, as we saw yesterday, drifted out to the left a hell of a lot. Ozil's more than capable of drifting out to the right. I mean, he's obviously been playing on the right. I don't think Ramsey in a 2 is the answer. I think he gives you what you need attacking-wise, but it kills you defensively. And more importantly than what I think, Emery is clearly going to play with 2 in front of the back 4. So whether... I know Rodrian's coming at this from a point of view where he doesn't rate Xhaka, and that's fair enough. That's a lot of people have that opinion. But it kind of doesn't matter because Emery is going to play 2 in front of that back 4. And Ramsey you would never class as someone who sits in front of the back 4. So then if this argument was about Xhaka or Guendouzi, then it probably more fitting for what Emery wants to play because, as I said, I don't think Ramsey's ever going to play in that 2 under Emery.
Okay, hopefully that's all the Ramsey questions. It's fucking, yeah, over Ramsey this week. There's lots of Ramsey. I wonder why that is.
Well, it's just, look, it's clearly playing out of position and it's not working. And we've moaned about Torreira not coming in over the last few weeks, and now he's come in, so we can't really moan about that anymore. There's been a lot of moaning about Cech, but you can't possibly moan about him after yesterday. So it's kind of like what's left.
Yeah.
But it's a valid point because it clearly isn't working with him there. I don't think people are picking up an argument for argument's sake.
Yeah.
But all of the other valid arguments, and they've all been valid arguments, but all of the other valid arguments we've had kind of yesterday made them, it counteracted them itself, apart from the Ramsey one. So if there is questions to be asked, that is the one to be asked, really.
Mm-hmm. Our listeners are better than that anyway.
No, as I said, I think that they're valid questions. Look, if someone came on and said after yesterday, but I still want Leno to start, you kind of think, give it a rest. Like, whether you want that or not, after yesterday's game, you can't come out of that game and going, yeah, but if it was Leno. Like,
Tony, can I ask the next question? Should I edit that out?
No, let it be. And I think you should throw it to Tony as well.
Is there actually a question on that?
Yes.
The very next one, mate.
So Peter Bates says, "Do you guys think we should?" Oh fucking hell! Do you guys think we should preserve with Cech after yesterday's result, or take a closer look at Leno as goalkeeper, or stick with the Europa and cut him with the Europa League size for him to gain experience, Tony?
I have absolutely no opinion on this, so Shwin, what do you...
I think Tony pretty much implicitly covered this. Look, there's no way you can be mad at Cech after yesterday's game. Even before that, Leno had a decent game, as we covered after the Europa League. And to Cech's credit, I thought yesterday his distribution was a bit better too, especially with his right foot. Kept us in the game, kept a clean sheet. We could have lost the game very easily in the first half. So for me, as long as you don't come up with 3, 4, 5 games where you've really struggled, especially as the goalkeeper, it's different than any other position on the field. Because taking the goalkeeper out is quite a psychological blow for the fellow. So there's no reason for me for Cech to be taken out. I think he's a bit more vocal as well, which I've really enjoyed, setting up the defense in set pieces. And he's a class act. Looked after Michael Keane after that a bit of a tussle, went and checked up on Richarlison. I mean, that's captain material. You want to lead with class. That's what our club is all about. And when you're putting in a performance like you did yesterday, there's no question that he should retain his spot.
Yeah, Peter, nothing wrong with your question, mate. Just the timing was just beautiful. Just as Tony.
I'll take credit for that.
Look, but in saying that, though, Schwinn, we just thought a whole three of us gave Czech the man of the match yesterday. So I would never take the bloke we just gave man of the match out of goal to replace Eleno. Yes, I know people are calling for it, but Czech's been very good. Czech's been very good in goals. So
I've been saying that since last year, my friend.
Fuck it.
You know it. You know, I was the only one on here, to my credit, who said he's going to retain his spot. Let's be fair. You guys give me a lot of shit for fence sitting.
Fucking hell. Thanks for your question, Peter. We never praise Schwinn. MAA Gunner, what was the point in loading out Chambers, Tony? Good question.
I mean, I think he wanted a squad with four centre-backs. Obviously, holding Socrates, Mavropanos and Mustafi. He felt he had to loan someone out. I think we knew that from pretty much the start of pre-season. And he obviously felt that Chambers was the one that he either didn't need or would get the most out of going on loan. So I guess that was the reason. I don't think you need five. I think it's overkill. I do think it was silly playing Socrates in midweek, especially playing him on the right. I just thought it was weird. I'm not saying that contributed to his injury in any way. I don't even actually know what's wrong with him. But I think obviously at the moment I believe Mavropanos is carrying a knock. So that is the issue when you only have four, that if one guy's injured, someone has to play all the time pretty much. But if Chambers was there, then you've got someone, you'd have five. So there'd just be someone that never ever plays and doesn't get any minutes. And when these guys are sort of on the money they're on or looking for the career paths they are, you don't want someone like Chambers on 60 odd grand a week sitting there literally not playing a minute.
Mavropanos would be pretty cheap, I suppose.
Yeah, he was the one. He'd the one you think would probably be left out if there was five. But where does he get his development? He's only going to develop through playing, and maybe he thought if he loaned Mavropanos out, he wouldn't get the amount of minutes that he probably needed. And if he's not going to get the minutes you need him to get, you might as well train him yourself rather than having him train elsewhere and not get minutes. Whereas he obviously thought with Chambers, if he loaned him out, he would still get game time, which I imagine is true. I was surprised it wasn't Holding, to be honest. I thought from the moment Holding signed his new contract that he'd be going out on loan this year. But I always expected one of them to go out on loan.
I think Mavropanos, he'll get his chance.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have played the other day, and he would have played on Thursday. And I don't actually know what's wrong with him, but if he's back in time for Wednesday, I would imagine he'll play then. But if he's not fit, he's not fit.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, MAA Gunner, what was the point? Oh, yeah, so he goes on. Should Lacazette be one of the three behind Aubameyang instead of Aubameyang being the left midfielder? I think we've all pretty much... I don't know. Go on, Tony or Schwinn, who's got an opinion on this? Because we have rattled on about it, but...
Yeah, just quickly, I think the only way that can work is if we switch to like a traditional 4-4-2, where we have true wingers, but we don't have true wingers. Because at that point, you know, you're pretty much asking Ramsey or two of Ramsey, Mesut Ozil, and Mkhitaryan to fill into that role. And I don't think we have the players to do that. So, and if you want to continue with this system, then I don't think Lacazette has the pace to operate on a wing. He can do a job there, you know, in moments during a game, but I don't think long term that's a feasible strategy.
What did you say? 4-4-2?
Yeah, just a traditional 4-4-2, 4-4-1-1.
Yep. No, I agree. You've got to have both of them up top, haven't you?
Yeah, and that's what Tony's been banging on about, like a 4-3-1-2. But at that point, they're two strikers, and one's not falling deeper. I mean, they might in moments again, but you know, they're not playing. One's not playing behind the other.
Well, I mean, in the 4-3-1-2 that I've conducted in my head for the last month or so, it would be with Ozil at 10, but it would have Aubameyang on the shoulder and Lacazette slightly shorter for the hold-up play and link-up play. But it'd still be as a striker that just comes a little bit short, which is what he does naturally. It wouldn't be as in a 10-like role where he's roaming all over the pitch.
Like a false 9 or something.
Yeah, I mean, the false nine is practically a 10, but just listed on the team sheet as a striker. As I said, I'd have it like, I'm trying to think of examples throughout the years. I mean, when we played two up front, we always had Bergkamp, which it was clearly a 10. Just the 10 position wasn't invented then. But I don't know, maybe like a York and Cole at Man United, or even a Solskjaer, where Solskjaer played on the shoulder and then a York came slightly. I mean, he was still a striker by anyone's acknowledgement, but he came slightly deeper and linked up play a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Or a Shearer and a Sheringham for England. It's difficult because when I go back to teams playing two up front, I've got to think back 15 years.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it myself.
I mean, the Leicester team that won the title had a similar thing going on with Okazaki and Vardy. And the Liverpool team that came very close, Sturridge played on the shoulder and Suarez came a little bit deeper. I know it's Suarez that got all the goals, or the majority of goals, but he played the little buzzing role in between, but Sturridge played on the shoulder. So I guess that's them two, as Swin just said, Leicester and Liverpool are probably the two most recent examples of it. Also, I know it's different because of the big man, but it's what Watford are playing at the moment with both Deeney and Gray playing. So Gray plays on the shoulder, Deeney comes a little bit shorter and he's the hold-up player. Lacazette's obviously not the size of Deeney, but his hold-up is very good. So I'd imagine it working similar to how they work.
Yep. And just out of curiosity, Schwinn, with your 4-4-2, who do you... Obviously, the two up front. Who's your midfield? So Ramsey, Ozil in the middle.
I mean, if that were to happen, I mean, it would not be my choice ever. But if that were to happen, my guess would be Torreira and Granit in the middle of the park. And I mean, honestly, you'd be better off throwing in Iwobi on the left and Welbeck on the right, because you need true wingers who are going to really put a shift in. Well, let's be honest, that's not the strongest suit for Mkhitaryan or Mesut Ozil. And Ramsey could do a job in there, but I don't think he has the upper body strength to work as a winger, does he?
Nah.
Just to clear this up before we get questions about it, Schwinn is definitely not saying we should play that. He's just saying that as the only way he could see Lacazette coming a bit deeper with Aubameyang work. I know we're going to get questions on it. Like, I'm just listening to you speak and thinking.
No, I just wrote it down. I was thinking of it myself, Schwinn. That was all. I was thinking how, and I know what you're getting at, but I was just thinking, I wonder how that could work, and it just couldn't. So
it wouldn't. It is the answer.
Yeah. Just would not work. Sorry for throwing you under the bus there. I didn't mean to.
I'm used to it.
Cash exchange. New listener. New question. I haven't heard him before.
I have no idea. I haven't looked at the questions clearly.
Cash exchange. So, with Ramsey, Ozil, Aubameyang, Lacazette, the team looks unbalanced. Who should we drop, and who should you replace them with? Tony?
Look, again, I personally wouldn't drop any of them. I'd change the shape. If we were to keep the current shape, it's difficult because I'd probably say drop Ramsey, move Ozil into 10, but then who you play on the right is a tough one. I'd probably give Mkhitaryan a couple more games to fix up his act defensive-wise. And if he doesn't, as I said earlier, I don't think Welbeck's a million miles away from this first team. And I know a lot of people disagree with that. But I just think when you think logically of that right side, he's probably the best fit, which is worrying because he shouldn't be. but as I said, I said it earlier, they've all got major positives. Mkhitaryan's link-up play with Bellerin is very, very good, but his defensive work is a shambles at best. And then Welbeck's almost the exact opposite. He's got the pace and power. His defensive work is brilliant. He can't pass the football, so there'd be no link-up. I think somewhere between them two is the perfect right winger we need. But unless they have a kid and he becomes a footballer very quickly, it's not going to happen.
Sorry, I'm just fucking looking at these formations, thinking, how the fuck? Okay. Clay Co. He says with Chelsea, Tottenham, and really both Manchester teams underperforming so far this season. Fuck, jeez, did you watch Manchester City yesterday? Don't think I'd say
no, but I watched them on Saturday.
Oh. When was it?
Saturday,
was it? Yeah.
Tez lives on a different planet. I have no idea what's going on with his time zones.
Underperforming so far this season. Would you say we have a good shot at the top four? I know it's early, but things are looking up. Who is your top 4, boys? Let's go here, Tony.
City, Liverpool.
On what's happened now.
City, Liverpool, Chelsea, and one other.
Who's your one?
I can't call fourth between us and Tottenham. I don't think United are going to be in it, to be honest.
Schwinn?
I mean, before the season started and we did our preview, I had United in there. And it's still early days, so we don't know how things are going to shape up. But, I mean, for us, I think my chances are the same, as I had them before. I don't think I'm more persuaded to throw us into the mix or enough to take us out. At the moment, I would stick with my early season prediction of finishing 5th.
Couple of fence sitters for you.
Well, I just said 5th.
To answer the man in question. 5th, I can't see going 5th. Yeah,
I don't think it's we've seen enough to really say anything more, in my opinion.
Well, I'm going to go. Hang on. I'm going to go Liverpool. I'm going to go Liverpool City. They're going to find out for the top. Depends who falls and stumbles there. Chelsea. Fuck. Yeah, Chelsea 3rd. I'm going to go Arsenal 4th because I think Tottenham will fall over. If they get deep into the Champions League.
I mean, the thing is for me so far, and we're looking 6 games in, to use a golf term, and I don't play golf, but I think most teams are just on par with where you expect them to be, apart from maybe United. City, you probably wouldn't expect them to drop point for Wolves, but we're not a rival with City this season, I don't think, so I'm not including them. But we've lost the 2 games we've lost. We probably expect to lose if we're being honest with ourselves. Tottenham lost to Liverpool. You'd probably expect it. Watford was a bit of a shock. But you look at where Watford are and you go, okay, away at Watford is not a terrible, terrible loss at this point in time. And so I think you're looking at Man United at losing away to Brighton is the only sort of shock amongst the top 6 teams.
I'd say West Ham, Chelsea getting a point.
0-0 draw. I don't think away at West Ham. I mean, we drew away there last year. Chelsea lost away there last year, I think, or 2 years ago. Tottenham have lost there in the last couple of years. It's not an easy place to go. I wouldn't say it is an all-and-out shock. I'd expect Chelsea to win it, but I wouldn't go, that's a major shock. Like
the two teams,
it's Derby Day, isn't it? I mean, nothing makes sense on Derby Day.
As I said, I think the only shock, actual shock amongst the big side so far is United losing at Brighton. And for me, Wolves getting a point at Old Trafford is more of a shock than West Ham getting a point against Chelsea.
Yeah, the draw. Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
Wolves, man. Yeah, true. But then West Ham, they started off poor though.
Well, you say that they should have beat us if we're on it. If we're being completely honest, they should have beat us. And then off the back of that, they've gone and beat Everton 3-1 away, and then they're their last 2 games, and then they go into that game. So you look at kind of form. Again, it's not a huge surprise.
No, fair point. The 2 teams that actually, and I'll throw us in it, us and Chelsea, because the two new managers. I think we've been doing all right. I think Chelsea's done all right too, considering you've got 2 new managers coming in. Like them first 2 games for us under Emery, we always thought that it's going to be tough. But I think it'd be tough for any new manager to come in to a team in a World Cup year and string some wins on. I just think it's hard, and Sarri's he's had it harder because they didn't even know what they were friggin' doing up until a couple of weeks into out of the competition before he got the contract, did he? So I think they've done pretty well, Chelsea.
Yeah, look, again, I put them as par. We'll see where they're at. They've got Liverpool twice in this week. I mean, one time they're going to, I'd imagine both teams will rotate, but then they've got them in the league on Saturday, and that'll probably tell us a lot more. Because the one test they've had so far was us, and let's be honest, had we been 5-2 up at half-time, no one would have said anything.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah,
let's see where they're at. I think they've done well, I agree with you, but to use the golf term, I just think they're on par. Like, if not, no one, I don't think anyone's going, fucking hell, look at Chelsea. They're doing unbelievable.
Yeah, nah. You're probably right. Liverpool City are the ones that everyone's going, oh, fucking hell.
Yeah, but I mean, again, Liverpool have had 6 wins, but if you looked at them fixtures before the table, Tottenham is the only one that you maybe would have questioned. And look, City have dropped 2 points that we didn't expect them to, but that's neither here nor there. So you could say, okay, maybe they're slightly under par. But I mean, there's nothing in it between them two. I think Liverpool, apart from one fixture, have had all fixtures that I'd been amazed if they hadn't taken all 3 points.
It's a good win in the Champions League against PSG, Liverpool.
Yeah, it was a good win.
Good win.
PSG were shit though.
City dropped points.
Yeah, but look, we're not even in the Champions League. I don't give a fuck. I literally could not care less. I watched the game because there's nothing better to do. And I like football. But in terms of looking at how that judges form, I don't really care. City are going to go through their group. Liverpool are going to go through their group. Yeah. Tottenham, I think, are in a bit of trouble. But who cares? In fact, I don't even want Tottenham to come third because it's an extra competitor for us. I'd rather they go through and get dicked in the last 16 by someone.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, keep them there as long as they can.
Well, no, if they come third, they drop down into Europa League. But that just makes another team harder for us. And in all honesty, I'd rather play Inter in the Europa League than I would Tottenham.
Okay, Vish, are the rumours true that we are looking at... got no idea who this bloke is, his name.
Abdoulaye Doucouré and Gana Gueye.
Okay, and January transfer, would that mean we are stripping off El Nani or merely reinforcements to our midfield, Tony?
Not seen the links. I'm a huge Gana Gueye fan, but I don't think there's any chance of us signing him. I think they probably see him as quite similar to Torreira, and obviously we've only just signed him. 6 months ago, I'd have been said go all out for Gana Gueye, but not now. Doucouré, his name just seems to be linked around with everyone forever, and nothing ever actually happens. I think he signed a new contract in the summer in the end. I can't see it happening. I'm almost certain it won't happen. It wouldn't be. I think El Neni would go, but it wouldn't be seen as a swap for El Neni. If Doucouré goes anywhere, they're looking at over 30 million, so he's not going to come in and play the water boy role.
Okay. Now we've got one more question, I think. Schwinn? Lee Kirk, new listener question. My daughter goes to two to 4 games a year and has yet to see us lose. Do I bite the bullet and pay £900 for a season ticket and let her go to every game?
I mean, if Lady Luck is bringing us wins every time she's going, then I think £900 is not a big enough amount to shell out, is it?
No. Schwinn, didn't you offer to pay it for him?
No, I cannot make that more explicit. No, I did not. I mean, I did want to speak about this just a bit. Yesterday, the attendance seemed very low for a Premier League game. I mean. Of course, we've spoken about how people tend to leave the Emirates 5-10 minutes before full time, but even from the beginning and 10, 15, 20 minutes in, it just seemed as if not enough seats were full. What was your sense of that, Tony?
I didn't notice as much because I'm sitting in somewhere different, and it's always difficult to get you don't get the same perspective. Like, if you're in the same seat every week, you can judge what week's busier than the other, but when you're sitting somewhere completely different, it's hard to tell. It didn't look full. But I mean, we must all be wrong because we was told that everyone stopped coming because of Arsene Wenger. So we're obviously all mistaken. Our eyes have lied to us, and it was full. It was so full. There's people sitting on the roof because it's Arsene Wenger's fault. Obviously, it's not that our fans are complete arseholes, which is the truth. It's Arsene Wenger.
It's really disappointing. I mean, as someone, and I'm sure Tez agrees with this sentiment. As someone who watches the game from afar and doesn't really make it to a whole lot of Arsenal games. It's a bit of a perspective, and I don't want to be preachy here, but I'm not quite sure what some of our fans want. As you alluded to, the change was wanted, demanded, and they got it. All of us got it, and I can still see an argument for a midweek game against Borskla, although I don't want to, but I can see it. But against Everton, which is a competitive team, the game was of course symbolic of that. And on a weekend, nice day in London. I know it was raining early in the day, but then it seemed to be a nice September's afternoon. I'm not quite sure what our fans want at this moment. So it's really disappointing.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. There's been loads of debates on Twitter today. People saying, if they don't use their seats, because obviously it's an electronic card that you use to enter the ground, they should be stripped of them. But look, I go to every game, and it does annoy me that seats are empty. But for me, I think if you brought it, you can kind of do what you want with it. And it is disappointing that someone would buy a seat and not attend. But really and truly, that's their prerogative. It's like, I don't know, to turn it into cars. Someone that has a supercar and doesn't use it, or someone having 2 or 3 cars and only uses one of them. You can't then take that car off them because they're not using it. So I see the debate, and it is annoying, and I can imagine it's even more annoying for people that can't go to games. I'm in a privileged position where I can go every week, but I'd imagine that people that struggle to get tickets and then they see empty seats, it is heartbreaking. But if someone's paid the money, I don't think you can tell them how they can and can't use their ticket. They've paid for it. And I think this idea of, if they don't go to enough games, strip them of it, is nonsense, really. It's different if they were picking and choosing the games they go to and then only paying for them games. But that's not the case. They're paying for the season up front. And let's be honest, I doubt the club give a shit because they've got the money in the bank. They had that money in the bank in June. So I don't think they really care, is the truth.
Well, I just wonder whether it's because, look, for me, it's neither here nor there, because I know they're, I'm season ticket holders. I don't look at the stadium on TV and go, oh shit, no, nobody's there. But I spoke to you about the Europa League game, and I wonder whether, midweek fixture, or people are working, people have got to get kids to school, and just don't have the time to go to the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, if that game, we saw with Europa League last year, it's pretty much empty throughout. We get Atletico Madrid and there wasn't a spare seat in the ground. So the opposition does play a part. But as I said, for me, it's the prerogative of the owner of the season ticket. As I said, I wouldn't tell you how to ride your bike. I wouldn't tell you how to drive your car. I wouldn't tell you how to use your laptop. For me, it's a possession. Your season ticket is a possession of that person, and how they want to use it, it is down to them. As I said, I think it's ridiculous when people leave it empty, but I also think it's their choice.
Yeah. Okay. You're right there, Schwinn?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just quickly say that I'm obviously not advocating for people to be stripped off of their property, because that's what essentially that would be. But I feel like the club could do something here, maybe, and maybe this is me being very.
Why would they? They've been paid.
Well, when you're catering to that big of an audience, it's always better to be approachable. And if there was a sort of an official exchange, they could establish whether that
there
was
is. There is.
Schwinn, I'm gonna look, and I'm just gonna put it down to this for you though. Let's say you're in the seat selling game, right? You've got 10 seats, and you sell these 10 seats. You've got your $100 for every 10 seat. You've catered for them 10 seats as well, so you put on food, you've put on a bit of beer for them 10 seats. Them 10, only 5 of them people turn up. What do you do with the other 5?
No, I mean, I understand that, but I'm saying if there is time for, a ticket holder knowing that they won't be making the game, there could be an easier way. And of course, I'm not a season ticket holder, so I'm not sure what they have to go through. So as Tony's saying,
there's 2 options. You can either put it on the ticket exchange, where the clubs sell it for you. So if it doesn't sell on there, then you're just completely out of pocket. So the ticket goes empty. If they do sell it, I think it's 10% they take. But they also don't credit you cash. They give it to you off your next season ticket, or if you don't renew, then they give you cash. So either way, you're not getting paid till the end of the year. And the average customer at the Emirates is quite wealthy, so they don't really care about waiting until the end of the year for £40. So that's the problem with that one. The other way to do it is there's a ticket transfer service, which is £1 per ticket, and you can transfer it to another Arsenal member. That relies on you knowing an Arsenal member. A lot of people do just give their tickets to their mates, but technically speaking, it's illegal. And the club have clamped down on it quite a bit, which makes no sense, because when the stadium's empty, you think they'd just let people get on with it. But they do come round now and check and ask for ID and should check it's the same name that's on the electronic card that's entered the ground. I mean, you can get, for anyone listening, you can get away with it because it's not a legal requirement to carry ID in this country. So you can just say, no, I haven't got my ID. But they are starting to check that, and they are reprimanding people and even chucking people out for it. So the club aren't helping themselves. But yeah, the two systems, it is very stupid. But the 2 systems that are in place don't don't really work. And just as a point of that, the Burnley game, Wenger's last game, one of my friends, so Charlie Shanks, who does all the drawings that we always retweet, brilliant artist, I got him a ticket for the Burnley game using my mate's account. When Charlie got to his seat, there was someone waiting there because they knew that the person sitting in the seat wasn't the account holder. That's how petty they're getting with it.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's shocking. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that there's some security element to it, but you know, if you produce an ID, even if it's not the ticket holders, you should be all right.
He went through the official process of transferring the ticket because I physically gave him the ticket. I didn't give him my mate's membership card, so he didn't go in with the card that said Mr. Smith or whatever the guy's name was. He went in with a physical printed e-ticket, which is the official way to do it, and they're still checking him inside the ground. The club are not accommodating it at all. And as I said, the two systems they've got don't really work because there's actually no way. So say, I'm assuming you guys aren't Arsenal members just because of where you're based. So if, say, Schwinn, you come over, there's no fully legal way of me giving you a ticket to a home game.
Wow.
Because they want you to be an Arsenal member, which costs £30. But if you're only here for 1 week and going to come to one game and the value of the ticket might be £70, are you going to really pay another £30 on top for a year's membership that you're not going to use because you're going back out the country? And that's the only way legally to give you... Look, there's loads of ways around it. But that's the only way to go through Arsenal's eyes for me to give you a ticket.
Interesting.
Strange business.
It's very...
As I said, they don't... Look, they've got their money and they don't care. They don't want people selling the tickets unless it goes through the ticket exchange. But as I said, you lose 10%. And if you lodge it on the ticket exchange, you can't sell it elsewhere because it's like in Arsenal's hands. But if they kind of have it both ways. If they sell it, they get 10%. If they don't sell it, they don't lose anything. It's not like they buy it back off you and then sell it themselves. It's still your property until they manage to sell it. So like the Vorskla game the other day, there would have been untold amounts of tickets on the ticket exchange. But they wouldn't have sold. So then people would have just been out of pocket.
Okay. Right, that's it for the questions, boys. So thank you everybody for your questions. You can get them at clockend_talk. Also on Facebook when I get a minute to check the Facebook. Boys, I'm just going to touch quickly on before we wrap up. So Savvy done his ratings, and you can have a look at Savvy's ratings and all the boys doing the blog stuff. Craig and Texas Gooner and what likes, a couple of other boys there. Bloody hope with some names, so I can't remember who they are. But there's about 4 or 5 of the lads there doing some good articles. So clockandtalk.blogspot.com. So just on Savvy's ratings, so Czech was he's man of the match at 10. Mustafi a 5.5. I won't read it all because you can check it out. And Ozil a 6. Lacazette an 8. So you can check that out on the blog. Also, boys, we've got a game coming up during the week. Brentford, EFL Cup. Imagine it'd be a very weak team from us. Tony, you boys want to do a quick prediction?
10-0.
10-0. Weak lineup.
Yeah, so I'd imagine rotated completely. Again, I don't think there'll be anyone that started yesterday that starts on Wednesday.
Okay. What do you say, Schwinn?
Yeah, sorry. I'll go 2-1, and yeah, I don't expect any of our starters in there.
Okay.
I mean, we'll see like Holding Iwobi Welbeck, who obviously came on yesterday, but I don't think we'll see. I mean, maybe at left back, Nacho might have to play again. I doubt it, but I can't come up with a reasonable alternative. But I don't even think that will happen. I think it'll be 11 changes.
Yeah, those young players, they should get a really good run here too, shouldn't they? Just trying to look. So I'm just looking who our left backs. Tutu.
I'll say Tutu was one of the ones that trained with the first team last week. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to throw in it. Brentford aren't awful. But you don't know. With these championship clubs, they sometimes throw away the competition as well. Because they think, we ain't going to win it, we'll focus on the league. Yeah. So you never know what they're going to play. But they're not a shit team, so I don't think he'll go too young. Eddie might get a run out somewhere. Willock might get a run out. Smith Rowe might get a run out, but I think it'll be largely rotated. But so when you're looking at players like Holding, Iwobi, Welbeck, there should still be enough in there to win. It'd be interesting at centre back, depending on how bad Socrates' injury is. It might have to be Holding and Mustafi again.
I'd like to see Mafropanos get a run, but then again, if you
said he was apparently unfit last week, so I don't know what's up with him.
Lichtsteiner, he'll be on the right.
Yep.
Still not a bad team. Oh, Carl Jenkins. When's he going to get a
Dinosaurus. Busy.
You fucking idiot.
He's injured.
Oh, he's still injured, isn't he?
Yeah, that costume won't hurt his back. It's too heavy.
I'll go to... What do you go, Schwinn? 2-1.
2-1.
I'll go 3-1. Any of us pick it last week against Everton?
No.
No, Tony's right.
I was closest though because I got a 0 for them and none of you two did. So.
Tony's writing his shit down there. Okay, boys.
No,
you just remembered. Anything else, boys?
Nah.
All good. We might come back and record after the Brentford game next Friday, depending on what Schwinn's up to, and if me and Tony are up to it, and we might do a preview on is it Watford?
Yeah.
Watford game. Otherwise, we will be back after the Watford game, and we'll do both games then. So, thank you for listening, everybody, and our loyal listeners out there, unbelievable. Thank you for following us on Twitter at @clockan_talk. Keep up the interaction, guys. It's great. Great talking to you as all. Facebook and the support on YouTube's been absolutely brilliant. So we do read the comments there, and thank you for the comments, and thank you for your kind comments as well on your support there. So, okay, guys, thanks again, and we'll speak to you next week.
Adios.